España Exterior de España.
English language service.
Greetings from Madrid and welcome. I'm Justin Toll.
And I'm Amy Egan. Today we revisit part 2 of Alison Hughes' mini-series on Spanish-US relations during the Cold War. Today's program looks at the role of the US Naval and Air Force bases in Spain as part of the Strategic Air Command, and the refueling operation gone wrong that resulted in thermonuclear bombs scattered around the village of Palomares, on Spain's Mediterranean coast. But first, a brief look at the news. The British government has updated its list of countries that are part of the green, amber and red list, confirming that Spain maintains its amber position. This means vaccinated British tourists will be able to continue travelling to Spain. Spain has seen a significant drop in visa cases, a variant which British ministers believe may be resistant to vaccines. But there are also concerns that there are strictly not enough hotel rooms in England to quarantine returning holidaymakers. Spain's Health Minister, Carolina Valle, said that Spain was in a stabilization phase regarding the spread of COVID-19 as the 14-day coronavirus incidence rate reached 633 cases per 100,000 people. But, he added, we're coming down from rates that were fairly high.
En prudencia, estamos observando un descenso, una estabilización con tendencia al descenso, pero venimos con una situación con incidencia bastante elevada.
In the month of August, fans will be able to attend sports events in Spain with a maximum capacity of 40% in air stadiums and 30% in indoor facilities, said Spain's health minister earlier this week.
Se supone que se va a permitir un aforo máximo en eventos deportivos abiertos, en itinerarios abiertos, en exterior, de un 40% del aforo del estadio en cuestión. Y para recintos cerrados, un 30% del aforo, garantizándose siempre la distancia interpersonal de un metro y medio.
Fans will need to keep a distance of 1.5 meters between them and wear a face mask. They will be allowed to drink water, but not to eat or smoke, and indoor facilities will need to be well ventilated. The women's solo kata competition kicked off karate's first foray into the Olympics on Thursday, and Spain's Sandra Sanchez won the gold in the final contest against Japan's Yo Shimizu.
Siempre a todo el karate que ha luchado tanto por aquí y todos compañeros de todas las épocas, ¿no?
Claro.
En mi familia que...
You're listening to the English language service of Spanish National Radio.
The construction of the US military bases began almost immediately after the parties signed the Pact of Madrid, and was completed by the time President Dwight Eisenhower visited Spain in 1959, 6 years later. In some cases, such as the air base at Zaragoza, Spanish military facilities already existed on the site and were greatly expanded. In addition to the 3 Air Force bases and the mixed air and naval base at Rota, the Americans built 7 smaller installations and radar towers throughout the Spanish countryside. Given Spain's poverty and lack of industry at the time, much of the necessary equipment and material, as well as qualified personnel, had to be shipped from the United States. Modern American engineering methods and procedures were used, requiring specialized personnel, so an effort was made where possible to hire Spanish or local workers. To service the extraordinary needs of the Strategic Air Command bases in Spain, an extensive fuel oil pipeline from the naval base at Rota to the air bases at Morón, Zaragoza, and Torrejón were built to the Air Force by the U.S. Navy Civil Engineer Corps. In 1956, the Franco regime produced a documentary called A History of a Pipeline about the 800-kilometer-long fuel oil pipeline connecting the U.S. military bases and providing fuel for their aircraft.
construcción y el montaje de este oleoducto de 800 kilómetros en el interior de nuestra tierra y nuestra piedra ha costado más de 2.000 millones de pesetas y 2,5 millones de dólares de trabajo.
Of its remarkable soundtrack, the documentary contrasts the bucolic settings and lifestyles of the Spanish countryside with the modern machinery and engineering used by the Americans in the project, and it says cost 2 billion pesetas and 2.5 million work hours. U.S. sources from the time put the cost at about $1 million. In contrast to the sophistication of the music and the images, the documentary explains the pipeline's purpose with a homely comparison with the jets flying in and out of the bases consume the fuel used by 100 cars. The film does not mention the fuel oil storage terminals dispersed in underground tanks throughout the country, which were also built at the time. The objective is clearly to set the Spaniards' minds at ease about the changes the American presence in Spain will reap.
Es esencial para nuestra defensa, pero además nos fortalece desde el punto de vista militar, proteger nuestras comunicaciones por carretera y ferrocarril, sin alterar nuestra vida cotidiana. El oleoducto está terminado.
This pipeline is essential to our defense, but it also strengthens us militarily without affecting our roads or railways, without disturbing our daily life. And the film ends.
Aprovecho tranquilamente una vez más.
Once again, the sheep graze peacefully, and the farmer will return once again to plant and to harvest, and the land will regain its timeless nature, while beneath the surface grow the riches that will keep our defenses strong, thanks to our friends from across the ocean.
Fluyen las riquezas que mantendrán fuerte nuestra defensa. Gracias a nuestros amigos del otro lado del mar.
Well, gang, this is X-Empire saying that this wraps up our happy musical half hour on the air for this time. Have you had fun? Sure hope so, because we're going to be around this same time next week and try to make you happy at the polka party.
In addition to the pipeline, the runways, the hangars, the warehouses, the maintenance facilities, control towers, and all the other key installations for the base's operations, houses, schools, shops, and recreational facilities were built on the ground, creating Little America in the varying Spanish landscape. Baseball diamonds, bowling alleys, football stadiums, movie theaters, grocery stores stocked with peanut butter and packaged macaroni and cheese. Department stores with electrical appliances, refrigerators, blenders, vacuum cleaners, plus the necessary adapters, ensured the Americans could live in their own bubble if they wished. The weekly deliveries of armed forces radio and television programs ensured their further entertainment.
From the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television.
Apart from the living quarters and services, the bases in Spain were conceived for mixed functions, essential being housing and support for the U.S. Strategic Nuclear Strike Forces. The air bases at Torrejon and Zaragoza and Morón, under the U.S. Air Defense Force, formed part of the Cold War program known as the Strategic Air Command, or SAC, which had control of land-based nuclear bomber aircraft and intercontinental ballistic missiles. Strategic Air Command also operated reconnaissance and in-air refueling aircraft as part of its 24/7 readiness. Its primary missions were to destroy or damage the Soviet ability to deliver nuclear weapons and to stop any Soviet advances into Western Europe. That meant the constant flying of U.S. bomber jets over Europe. General Thomas Power was the commander-in-chief of the Strategic Air Command and addressed the newsreel in 1961.
Perhaps I could start with the mission of the Strategic Action Plan. Briefly stated, the mission of SAC is to be prepared to conduct strategic air operations on a global basis, so that in the event of sudden aggression, this command can mount simultaneous nuclear counter-terror attacks designed to destroy the war-making capacity of an aggressor to the point that he would no longer have the will nor the capability to wage war.
By the time of President Eisenhower's visit, all 4 bases were functioning. The naval base at Boca was inaugurated in 1956, Torrejón was operating in 1957, Morón and Zaragoza the next year. Within months, around 26,600 U.S. Armed Forces personnel and support staff were deployed to Spain. Spain's official newsreel celebrated the opening of the Roca base, considered, it says, the most important in Europe, representing yet another proof of Spanish